We apologize for the delay.
People sitting down with popcorn on YouTube, I'm sure.
Yep.
I mean, they all tuned in at 9 this morning and were disappointed. So.
That's right.
Friday afternoon, you know.
That's right.
Way to end the day early.
Okay.
Policy happy hour.
Mhm.
All right. Now streaming and recording locally just for fun. All right. Here we go. We'll call to order this special meeting of the Easton Reading Region 9 Joint Boards of Education Policy Committee on December 4th, 2020 at 4:18 p.m. Members in attendance, John Stinson, Christopher Parkin, and Maureen Williams. First, item number 2, approval of minutes from our November 2020 meeting.
So moved.
So moved.
I think I heard Maureen and then a second from Chris.
I just switch them back and forth in the minutes every week. Sometimes
Any
Chris goes first, sometimes I go first. No.
Any
Equal opportunity.
Any discussion?
No discussion, no objection. I vote aye.
Very good. I vote aye. Passes
I
unanimously.
thank Maureen for taking care of these.
Yes.
It's not rocket science.
Takes us to public comment. Seeing no members of the public present, we will move on to committee member comment. Hearing none, we'll move on to discussion and possible action. Item A, continue the 3000 series and tri-board governance structure conversation. So we'll move on to the 3000 series by way of sharing my screen. Sorry, here we go. Oops, that's not it. There it is. Very good. I will preemptively zoom.
Thank you.
Yes, absolutely. And we're going to do some scrolling here just to get down. I believe we left off right around here last time. Sorry, I'm just going to scroll to the, I think we were right here, right? Where's my note on that? Sorry about that. I thought we were at page 100, but we were not, were we? We were.
I think it was before then.
You're right.
A little short of 100.
Yep. It was like 96, maybe.
You had me looking at statutes on buses.
That's right.
And I think if I remember correctly, Clarence resolved one of those questions about the shells and the maze on the transportation issue.
That's correct. Okay.
I was curious what we do pay because there was a cap in that statute, believe it or not.
Mm-hmm.
And so if we, I'm curious as to what, and I wrote in my little notes, curious because it's an $800 cap, what we actually pay.
Okay. I see that the forms file piece here, and I think that takes us here to the next comment. Okay.
I think the bottom line is we do need these transportation contracts to really resolve this. I didn't get them, but I did read these statutes and I did look for the DMV declaratory judgment position paper, which it was not available online. You're gonna scroll down and see my comments. But the buzzwords in here seem to have come from that position from the DMV. And it just seems to be designed to make sure that no one is viewed as in the same position as a bus driver. That's why that funky language that we were all questioning, incidental use, I think it comes from that declaratory judgment act. Okay. But I couldn't find it online and I looked for a while.
Should we tag Clarence against this for the sort of looking at the contracts or
yeah.
inviting in?
Yeah.
Maybe we want to say invite in.
Who's the chair of the transportation committee? And I didn't look that up either.
The committee was Randy, Mike D'Agostino, me, and Gwen. I think Randy is the chair.
Okay.
In subsequent meeting. Okay.
Yep.
All right, good. And these are additional comments in that vein?
Yeah.
Okay. Do we need to drill in on the special education question?
I don't know that you necessarily do, because it seems, I was just voicing my own curiosity, right? I mean, it certainly, there's no cap in the statute, and it certainly could be a big number, and I've never seen it drilled down on, but I don't think there's any reason to drill it down on it for our purposes here. I don't think we have to resolve it. It's they can pay whatever they choose to.
Okay. Okay, and this was what we had assigned last time.
Yeah.
Same stuff, right?
Same stuff.
Yep. Okay, and truing up to the contract. Wait, is this is cafeteria workers now? Do we think this is going to be the same issue?
I do think you need to see those contracts too.
Yep. Okay. I think we can probably consider that whole invite to be sort of transportation, food services, et cetera, sort of all a part of that big sort of check the contract, verify against.
Right. Operations.
Yep.
Cross check.
Yep.
Yep.
I like that, operations cross check. Sounds very official. Have you done your operations cross check? Oh, no.
Makes me wish I was on a plane where you used to hear that cross-check language.
Yeah. We watch Planes, Trains, and Automobiles for Thanksgiving.
Aw.
And I did not miss for a moment any of that. I did not think, oh man, I got to get into Manhattan as soon as possible.
Yeah, I think that there are real positives.
Yeah. There's a lot of scrolling. Are there no comments? There we go. Well, no, this is just regulation. Were there additional comments that I missed?
Definitely left comments on some of this for sure.
Okay.
Or at least I thought I did.
Yeah, I think there are. Chris
was responding to my comments. So.
Right. So we'll scroll a little bit more, and I think maybe we're just seeing there's a sort of relatively significant. So here, delete senior.
Yeah, I just senior high school, just high school. But
oh, yeah.
I think we're going to come to a point where we're just going to cut most of this language anyway and use the smaller, more efficient bullet that's further down.
Okay. Okay. Good. Is it just me, or is this is new? It seems like new functionality that they're adding here. It's a much more.
Yeah, you can put in a suggestion now.
Right.
I saw it there yesterday. I tried to use it today, and it wasn't there today.
It's better.
It's way better.
I like this. Do we agree reduce with reduced?
Yeah.
I especially just like this sort of summary of exactly what is happening, and I suspect we're creating
some audit trail.
Audit trail is exactly the term. Yep. That's great. Okay. Yep. Regs to move. Okay. Aspirational.
Yep.
And just that first sentence, right?
Yep.
Okay. Good.
I agree with food service instead of lunch and breakfast program.
Okay. Do we agree deleting this paragraph? Aspirational language?
Largely.
Yeah.
The high school has vending machines. Do the grade schools have vending machines? I think.
Only in the teacher's lounge.
Okay. This seemed a lot of duplicative language, like either the vending machines are permitted or they're not. Do we really want to regulate the time that they're accessed?
Well, that gets into the healthy food certification issue, because you can have Twinkies available as long as it's like outside an hour out of food service or something, or after school hours. So the vending machine that is stocked with Twinkies can't be accessed during lunch, but can be accessed after school. There's funky rules about the food service stuff.
Are any of the Twinkies in any of these vending machines?
Well,
No.
that's the other piece, that we had to certify that the vending machines are compliant with the healthy food, yada, yada.
Okay. So if they're compliant, they don't have Twinkies and we don't need to worry about the time, right?
Can't we just say that the districts will permit vending machines and the sale of competitive foods in accordance with policies and regulations to be promulgated by the superintendent or his designee in compliance with the healthy foods program or whatever?
Sounds good.
In compliance with the
state and federal law or applicable food service programs. Like, the broader we can get, the more evergreen this is going to be.
state and federal law and sorry. Right. District
Will permit
vending machines and the sale of competitive foods in compliance with state and federal law. Is that it?
We want to be in compliance with whatever sort of food program we're agreeing to or not. But you could also just say, and regulations, promulgated by the superintendent or his designee.
And then we kill this?
Yep. I think this is just the language from that healthy food initiative, is it not, Chris?
Probably. This is about competing with the school lunch program.
Right.
Is this unnecessary? Is this redundant to the statement we made above?
No, it's not redundant. Because this would say, I set up a table to sell cookies.
Okay. Okay.
And this is now duplicative. The principal is responsible for ensuring that foods from vending machines and other non-cafeteria is now duplicative of
right, because now that's part of the policies, that the regulations that we've just, we've EDD'd a new thing for ourselves.
Yep.
Superintendent shall close the cafeteria.
That's a weird line.
I suppose if he or she comes to know, that there's poisonous food, I don't know.
I mean, do we have to specifically delegate that to the superintendent?
I would hope not.
I feel like
the way that these regulations exist, who knows? Like, does the board have to otherwise take action to shut down illegal competitive food sales?
I wouldn't know what an illegal competitive food sale was if it fell over me.
You sell a slice of pizza outside the cafeteria. It's an illegal competitive food sale.
Okay.
What do we think? Do we leave this or?
I would get rid of it because I think it's kind of an implicit thing, but.
Yep.
That's fine.
Okay. And notes in policies.
Shouldn't this be a note in a regulation so that if someone has to refer to something, they know what they're looking at, but it doesn't really belong in a policy. I mean, we can say, note, regulation should be in compliance with the following.
Please note that this is what the rule is. Like,
Hmm.
then shouldn't that just be the policy? I mean, this
So
is
then
helpful because it sort of helps explain what the competitive food stuff is
Yeah.
for a layperson. But
Yeah, I do like the idea of providing lay persons with some background, some context for it.
All right.
Especially if it sort of keeps them from knocking on the door of a central office administrator saying, hey, you're not supposed to do this. If they do the homework to show up here and this explains, oh, I see. That's why, this exists.
Okay.
I mean, you could theoretically take note Connecticut regulations prohibit and convert it into schools are prohibited from, and then it reads like a policy.
That's true.
Yep. Okay.
Okay.
And we're scrolling.
And then I don't think we need in bold that Connecticut law prohibits soda. The last sentence.
That can just be
You can
regular
say
font.
The sale of soda is prohibited. Because we don't say in any other policy by statute. We make the reference to the statute below.
Right. Should we change the font so it's Coca-Cola font? I'm kidding.
The sale of soda is prohibited, parentheses, unless they want to sponsor something. Close.
You're right. I mean, like, how much money you got?
I mean, isn't the scoreboard in Keller sponsored by Pepsi?
Scoreboard?
In the gym?
Oh, is it?
Yes. If you look at the gym in Keller, there's a Pepsi logo on the scoreboard.
Whoops.
It looks like it's from 1993, but.
Oh, well, then maybe it's been updated. I don't know. We'll see. All right, we're looking at a collection here of regulation.
Yeah.
Okay. Aspirational. District nutrition program.
Sounds good to me.
Yep.
Because it was sort of defined in the prior paragraph that we're taking out. So.
What? I don't understand what it's doing. Why do you want me to
automatically update it to correct your spelling?
Yeah, no, I'm happy with your correction. Leave me alone. Like, just correct it and go away.
Are you sure though?
Yeah. Connecticut nutrition standards for schools, et cetera, et cetera.
I just don't like making references to specific documents that I am comfortable will change more frequently in these policies will.
Agreed. I just know from having run a concession stand for girls soccer that they sell a whole lot of not so nutritional substances.
Yeah.
And it would be in direct contravention to this. I'm sure football does too.
Yeah, I would say sort of two questions there. Is there any issue with our compliance with whatever programs we're a part of if we're doing that at events?
I don't know the answer to that.
And then the other would be, should we, and maybe it's sort of rewinds back to some of the contract conversations we were having, both about food service as well as transportation. Should we be looping in the nutrition committee?
Yeah,
Food
maybe.
Services Committee or looping in the Transportation Committee on
Look,
something.
I can't imagine it's gone on for as long as it has,
Yeah.
if it's in violation of something.
Agreed.
Somebody would have said, you shouldn't be selling hot dogs at football games.
Yep.
Long before us.
Yeah, I
So-
agree with that.
Well, I don't, I'm not sure that the policy wonks are the football crowd, so I don't, they just haven't intersected yet.
You,
Your bias is showing.
someday, a place kicker is going to show up with questions about our adherence to the policy. I'm just saying, my boy's got a good foot. All right. Here we go.
We need Gwen here to defend this.
Yeah. Remove practices is only applicable to Barlow, but I think that's fine. Okay. I actually I don't know what this is saying.
Which is
And SB.
oh,
SBP.
that school breakfast program. It's defined above.
Oh, I see.
For whatever reason, now we're using acronyms in this policy for National School Lunch Program and School Breakfast Program.
But I thought we received no monies from the National School Lunch Program because it was too burdensome to go collect them.
I thought they gave us like a dime a meal.
And then they decided that I thought that they weren't going to pursue that because it was too burdensome. By the time they did all the paperwork involved, they had spent more time than they were going to collect in revenue.
I would just replace NSLP and SBP with the district's food service program.
That's
Shall
fine.
be nonprofit. Which I also think is sort of whatever. That's a
Yeah. I would say that the previous practice for going and getting those reimbursements may change. I think Clarence has indicated his interest in like where there's money on the table, you go get the money, and I know how to do it efficiently.
yeah. His
Okay.
worldview is go get it. So
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
I know that I had heard that they were not pursuing, National School Lunch Program monies because it was so burdensome to get them,
Yeah.
at least for the high school.
Yeah. Okay. EDD.
Why is this here?
I mean, we should just randomly drop this into policy all over the place. Like,
Right.
agreed.
right. Also because of this, and also because of that.
Right. Yeah. I don't think we disagree with this language. It just
I'm just
doesn't
glad we got
belong.
the phone number in there. That's very important.
I
Yeah.
mean, I think in our definition section, we shall say all
Mhm.
policies shall.
Yeah. You know what? I'm gonna keep that then and just
To say the district is generally prohibited from discrimination and
Yeah.
delete the in accordance with federal law and Department of Agriculture policy.
right. Farm to school program.
Do we participate?
I don't know.
I have no idea if we participate. I have never heard anything about this program. And that doesn't mean that we don't, but I've never heard anything.
Who would know? Is that going to be Clarence now?
I would think so.
I think so. I wouldn't necessarily raise it with the vendor. I would raise it with Clarence probably.
Yep.
If we're curious, I just pulled up the certification that we do every May. That the board will allow the sale of food items that do not meet the nutrition standards and beverages that do not meet the requirements, provided that the sale is in connection with an event occurring after the end of the regular school day or on the weekend, that such sale is at the location of the event, and that such food or beverage is not sold from a vending machine or a school store.
Okay.
An event
there's
is an
your
occurrence that
concessions.
involves more than just regularly scheduled practice, meeting, or extracurricular activity. The school day is the period from midnight until 30 minutes after the end of the school day. So
Okay.
that's what gives you concession stands.
Okay. Yeah. It's it seems strange.
And then
that
we
this would be
certify that all items for sale to students at all times in all schools and from all sources, including but not limited to stores, vending machines, cafeterias, and other fundraising activities on school premises sponsored by the school, shall comply with the nutrition standards. So our vending machines need to comply regardless of when they're accessed. But when things are sort of incident to an event, we've created an exception.
Okay. For the approval of items, we're saying this is not a board. It's funny because I seem to remember some other language that talked about that being the duty of the superintendent.
Yeah. I have never approved any, and it's only 3 years, but I've never approved any menu prices. I don't even recall seeing them.
Yeah,
I know,
remember.
I know we've talked about them.
I know we've talked about overall meal cost, but I don't think we've talked about the individual menu items.
I can think of a meeting where Mike D'Agostino was talking about the cost per meal, and I could think of a joint Easton Reading meeting, a June meeting, where the food service committee was reporting back, we're going to raise the price by a dime next year because, and everybody said, okay. I don't recall whether there was a vote or not, but.
Right, but I've never looked at what is the cost of ice cream.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. All right, so we think we remove this and just leave it at, well, I mean, the title is approval of menu prices. Are we changing board to superintendent or kill this whole item?
The statutory references are 10-215 and what else?
10 through 16.
16, payment of expenses, 215 lunches, breakfast, and other feeding programs for public school children and employees.
The charges for lunches, breakfast, or other feeding may be fixed by such boards of education and may not exceed the cost of food, wages, or other expenses. So the statute vests it with the board.
Okay. All right, so that this actually has to stay.
Yep.
And we should start doing it.
But it doesn't require you to take a look at the prices of items on the menu. It just says.
It has to be submitted to us.
Any local or regional board may establish and operate a school lunch program, may operate lunch for its employees, may establish a breakfast program. Charges for such meals or other such feeding may be fixed by such boards and shall not exceed the food, cost, wages, and other expenses directly incurred from providing it. When services are offered, the board shall provide free lunches, blah, 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 blah. Such board is authorized to purchase equipment. Any town board may vote to designate any volunteer organization to provide a school lunch program. Yeah.
So it says the board may fix prices, but not that we shall.
May. Charges may be fixed by the board.
Right.
It's a weird thing to make permissive like that.
Yeah.
Because it doesn't provide any alternative.
Right. Otherwise, the superintendent shall sell fixed prices.
I mean, shall we make this say the board delegates to the superintendent the right to set charges? I think that complies with the statute and dispenses with this voting about lunch costs. And I hate that the statute refers to this as feeding programs. It sounds like agriculture.
Yeah. I'm going to use the fixed prices.
I would say actually
set instead of fixed.
I would say charges because the next regulation talks about like in the sense of the charging policy.
Okay,
Charges instead of prices.
yeah.
And we're removing that their items shall be submitted annually for us to look at.
I don't see any
think we need
sense.
to do that.
It's not a part of the regulation.
Right.
Okay.
I think sometimes these model policies veer into sort of best practices or ideas for how you might oversee.
Yeah. It would be so nice to just get a clean set of regulations or a clean set of policies that are just about here's how we're living up to regulations.
Sometimes I think that if I just had a list of statutes we had to comply with, we'd be faster going through those statutes and drafting policies and just.
Oh, I agree. Oh,
like, give me the 45 statutes I need to comply with, and we'll split it up 3 ways and have 15 policies apiece to be done by Thursday. He says a year into the process. He says.
I think it's interesting though, because it wouldn't be that hard because you could do
all the references
search.
Are there.
All the references are there. You could do a keyword search and sort of capture. It even says legal reference on each one.
Right. You could reverse engineer this.
It'd be interesting to see, like, how many references are there?
Right.
And then could you write a policy book that just says, here's a list of let's say there's 50 legal references. We'll do all this stuff.
When I first joined this committee 3 years ago, I said, can we throw it all out and say, we will comply with the law? Right. That is our policy. That's where I'm starting from.
Yeah.
Because policies that just restate statutes are a waste of time.
Right. Well,
all it does though, is it gives somebody a jumping off point when they go look it up and say, oh gosh, I don't know what I'm supposed to do here.
Yeah.
Whether that's the superintendent or his designee or Zachary or whomever. Oh gee, I don't know. Let me start somewhere.
Right. We are converting into English a bunch of statutes.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, which I think, and in some ways also saying who's going to be responsible for doing what, where the statute doesn't necessarily state it.
Right.
Yeah.
The director of finance and operations owns these statutes. The superintendent owns these statutes.
Yeah. Okay. Sorry, we're looking at, I think.
Do we in fact audit the operation of the food service program annually?
I think we get a report.
I don't know about audit in the same context as policy 3434, which is referenced in the last paragraph here. I know that every May we get here's where the money is, here's where the expenses are, here's what's in the fund. I'm not sure that's an audit per se.
No, I'm not sure that's an audit either. I mean, I suppose having some kind of audit permission there, it makes sense in light of some of the stuff in the media about people swiping money from food service.
Right.
Right.
Okay. Okay. Aspirational. Good.
I would delete almost all of this page.
Yes, when I saw your comments, I agree.
Okay, so
everything that's in green stays. Everything else goes. And here we have another note.
Yeah. Everything else down here.
Take the highlight off now. From that page.
Yep. Okay.
I chose an awful color.
It's good. It caught our attention. Oh my.
I think you have to reject my highlight or something.
Oh, okay. Okay. Cut the rest of the page. Good. The things after it, the note,
I think the note can go. We do have to come up with some kind of policy on charging meals versus not charging
Right.
meals, but the note can go.
Yep.
Kids have always been permitted to charge a meal, so we start from the premise that they can.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know about this alternate meal thing. Is that done?
I don't know the extent to which it is done. I think it is, but not. I think there's some, grace involved in practice, but
Right.
I just sort of hate the idea of sort of codifying shame meals. Like,
Yeah, I do too.
Oh, you're gonna get your cheese sandwich now because you don't have any money on your account.
Yeah, I do too.
Goes against sort of the ethos of what we're trying to do.
Yeah.
Right.
Sorry, before we move on from here, striking just this part of it.
Yeah, it would just start with funds from nonprofit school account.
Got it. Good. And then here.
And this whole question about alternate meals colors the whole rest of the policy. Because if we're going to go away from alternate meal entirely, then we can strike a lot of this. And basically what we're saying is, what are we doing about debt?
Right.
Because right now, cheese sandwich is the punishment for overdrafting your account, which seems like an odd approach.
Is this the way that we're currently doing it? Is this our
There-
current?
That's my understanding.
Yeah. I just didn't know when these quote shame meals got triggered, right? How far behind a person had to be. Is it 5 meals, 10 meals? Is it $50, $80? I had no idea.
I think
My
without
kids were in grade
remembering-
school. You wrote a check. There was no online, debit account. Now there are. So
Right. And there's a whole different beef I have with my school bucks for the fact that they limit you to putting $100 at a time and they take their service fee every single time. So you can't say, I'm going to put $500 on and just pay the service fee once. It's nope. Every $100, you got to pay $3 in service fee or whatever it is.
And guarantee that 3%.
But it's not a percent. It's just a like.
Well, but it is if everybody's doing it 100.
Right. Exactly.
Right.
But they're charging $3 or whatever it is if you put $20 on or $100 on.
Yikes.
Which gets that's a whole different conversation for another time. I believe
is that permissible on a lower amount? Because what would that interest rate be effectively? What would that surcharge be?
Right. And it's a surcharge for us to lend you money. What?
Right.
Yeah.
It's not it's almost like it's a credit card processing transaction fee, but it's not because the money is sitting in another account.
Right.
Somebody will do the deep dive on that sometime, but it
Someday.
doesn't sound right to me.
Yeah. Who's ever, trolling out there for class action lawsuits?
Sounds like a good one. That one I'd support. Why do you want, that's crazy. I mean, It seems to me that someone with a whole lot of time on their hands could set up an account that the school itself just manages. Right here, I put the money in that bank account, like the Zelly equivalent.
So I'm looking at it right now, just for argument's sake. Add $10. The program fee is $2.50, so you get charged $12.50 to add $10.
That's crazy.
That's 25%.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
It's a flat $2.50, no matter how much you add.
And you have no ability to just hand in cash or pay by check or anything anymore. You have to use these, right?
And the cap for a contribution is $120. But
So they're guaranteeing themselves at least, somewhere around 2%.
yeah, like 2.25%, something like that.
Yeah.
But it's especially onerous on a family that doesn't have $120 to stick in.
That's right. It's a regressive tax on people who can only afford to add $10, $20.
If I would like to just say I'm putting $20 a week in the account, it shouldn't actually cost me. It should cost me $8 a month, not $90 a month.
Right. What's the vendor's name?
My School Bucks.
My School Bucks. All right. Well, we got off the topic of.
I mean,
A little
if
bit.
nothing else, going through these operations policies makes us ask a lot of questions about how things actually work that
Right.
are helpful to know. So,
Right. How do we want to make edits to this language?
There's a fundamental question of,
do we agree
there is
with
no
practice?
If there's not an alternate meal, what is sort of the negative consequence for overdrafting your account?
Right.
Because there isn't one, and then you're running the risk of the family that figures that out and just wants to be, whether they can, there's an issue or not, says, oh, I can just be overdrawn forever, and the policy says at the end of the year they're not going to chase me.
Right.
The policy says it gets written off on June 30th. So why should I ever pay for lunch? Now, the people who that's going to be are so small. The question is, where's the bigger problem? In somebody who wants to freeload like that, or in somebody who's going to be shamed because their parents forgot to reload their account?
I agree with the framing of that.
And I think that unless there is a pattern that is displayed that says that people are going to freeload and take advantage of this, we shouldn't have this punishment of kids for the most part are not going to, it's going to be of no consequence of their own behavior as to why this is happening.
Right. Yeah, here. So where's the appropriate discussion? Is this something that is this when we bring these policies to the boards, we point out this section and say, what do we think about this? Is this a conversation with the food service committee?
Right. Who's making this overall policy decision / departure?
I mean, ultimately it's full boards, but is the right protocol to connect with the food services committee first? Because do they have a point of view on this? Have they talked about this before?
Right.
They might know how much has gone into arrears each year too.
Right.
And we don't know that.
Yep. Okay.
And the food service committee is chaired by Mr. Parker, it looks like. I think it does make sense to either look for the recommendation or invite them to join us in a joint meeting to just hash this out.
Yeah, I mean, I could actually imagine, especially in this last section that we've been focused on, I could imagine a sort of meeting with the transportation committee, sort of joint meeting with the transportation committee, joint meeting with food services committee, food service committee. Okay. Cost of providing this alternative meal with Okay.
I mean, I might just put a whole pin in this entire policy.
I think that's right.
Refer it to food services.
Yep. Agreed. Non-federal with non-federal. That's good. Good. Is occurred. Has occurred. No. Okay. I'm glad we fixed that. That's $2.25 surcharge to Gabe for that one.
Yep.
Okay. This is getting more specific.
Right.
Right, with the charging of meals. So again, pinned. Yep. More of it.
You can delete my comment that was directed at Chris in the email saying he was doing his work right under deadline.
Can I though? Let me see. I don't know. I don't know if I actually can. I think you can. I think you can actually go in and edit your note.
I will do that.
Yep.
My sense is that what we do to get this debt paid is we hold back on, things like graduation and report cards and all of that.
I do wonder whether there are also regulations that say that you can't use food debt anywhere else.
I'm near certain that there are, from having litigated the question of whether or not back tuition could be used as a reason to withhold a high school diploma in a private school, and it can't be.
Yeah.
I would bet that school debt related to lunch is along the same.
I think school debt related to food is in its own classification, just like the income from the food is in its own classification. I think you can say you can't get your end of year whatever if you owe library books, because that's, so I think that's different than a diploma.
I think we can put barriers to entry, but I don't know if push came to shove, you could ever say no. If somebody really pushes you on the policy, having litigated the question of diplomas and tuition, et cetera, in a private context, if somebody pushes you on this, I think you're stuck. I think
a lot of this is pure deterrent.
Right.
And it allows you to then send a letter saying this policy says you can't do it.
Right. Yep. Barriers to entry.
I think I agree with what is our school food authority. It's I'm making a logo and a badge for it now. I think what they mean is
is that a police force, or is that
yes,
is a mascot for the food authority?
Exactly. Yeah. We got just a couple of more questions here.
It's gonna get punchy. It's Friday afternoon.
I think it's the district's authority related to food service. I think we could just say the district shall maintain.
Yep.
As required, documentation of the methods used to communicate the policy.
Food authority level staff. What is it?
Just delete this paragraph.
I don't know. What is it that we're saying? Documentation of the methods used to communicate this policy.
And what is that? So we're going to say we're going to communicate by email.
Right. We're maintaining a document that says that we use documents to communicate the policy.
Goodbye.
Bye-bye.
We're back to vending machines.
Yep.
All of this is circular.
Is this regulation maybe? Is it possible?
I don't think so. I think I looked. And I would say that we would just leave that first paragraph and delete all the alternative text.
Agreed.
This was all alternative text, correct?
It seemed to be.
Yep.
And this is just a broad delegation. Superintendent, take it away.
Yep.
Sounds good.
And now it becomes an EDD.
What do you mean by no expectation of privacy with respect to use of electronic resources?
I mean, with respect to, I'm thinking of it in the context of if I send an email on the ER9, server, it's my expectation that it can be monitored, reviewed, or anything else.
There may be some conflict with the relatively recent Connecticut law about data. We may need to be specific about sort of electronic mail and privacy versus electronic resources, because if we're talking about resources including like a Google Doc or Google Slides presentation or something like that, I think that becomes work product that that law says if a student, parent, teacher, or I think administrator says, I want this deleted, that they have the right to do that. So there's a weird conflict between those things, maybe.
I think you got to be careful, Chris, because I would consider doing that, but I'm loath to have no expectation of privacy in any kind of email. I mean, then if somebody FOIAs things that are conversations between teachers that wouldn't be otherwise be FOIAble, but there's no expectation of privacy, does that give them the leg up on a FOIA complaint?
Well, I mean, If teacher A emails teacher B and says, "What are we having for lunch today?" That's a public document. If teacher A says to teacher B, "Maureen got an A on her test," that's not a FOIAble document because of FERPA, not because of FOIA.
Okay.
All routine communication is public. And that's where you get into, the employee or the staff person saying, "Oh, I didn't know that this could have been, why are you sharing this with people? Why are you reading this?" Because it's a public document.
If I think about it in terms of email, it rings true. And certainly that's the policy at my firm. It's like nothing you're sending. Don't think that anything you're sending is exempt from us reviewing it, us, looking at it. I think broadening it to district electronic resources gets a little bit trickier for me. But electronic mail, what about the chat that people might be doing inside of the Google Hangouts and sort of all that stuff? So there's something about communications,
right?
And sort of, I would say there's a difference between the communications and the work product and the
yes.
Yeah, especially when we're
Who
talking
owns
about
the thing, right?
Yeah.
If you have a conversation with two parties, thinking about it from a perspective of evidence, either party can testify as to that conversation. So it's out there, it's public. But if you create a thing and that document is the thing, somebody has ownership rights in it that create a level of privacy expectation. I think that would inherently be higher.
But if you're saving it on the ER9 server, it's an ER9 document.
I still think that the individual who created it still retains some property rights in having created it. Okay, I create a masterpiece of, I don't know, art, and I put it up on the ER9 server. Is it any less mine because I put it up there?
If it's not a work made for hire.
Well, but if it's right,
those students are paid.
But the students, right, and that's the question, right? For the students, I think there's an additional protection for their work product by way of that law I referenced before.
What's the caption on this policy?
You mean the
title?
Oh. Electronic communications use and retention. See, that title is very similar to basic code of conduct language that I've got at work. Right. I think I see this every time I log into my machine.
Right. You're using a network that is monitored by the company. It owns everything. Proceed accordingly.
Yep. Yeah, and specifically if we're talking about our employees, I don't have any issues with the stuff here, but I think there's other stuff if we're bringing in the students.
Right. And I do think that in all likelihood, this policy was drafted at a time when it wasn't expected that every student K-12 was on email
right
all day long, which they are now in a way that they've never been before.
Right. And not just, starting in 2018, but specifically 2020, we just pushed the needle significantly.
Right. The playing field is completely different today than it was a year ago.
Right. Yeah. And I will add to my sort of previous hesitation. I have concerns about the policies related to GoGuardian and that stuff. I think in a setting where we're talking about something like GoGuardian, which is specifically surveilling, what students are doing on a device that is logged in to ER9 as the main account on the browser. If that device is a Chromebook that is sitting inside of a classroom, I have a few concerns. If that device is a Chromebook that was provided by the school, I have maybe a couple of concerns when that Chromebook is being used at a private home. If that device is owned by the individual and they're simply logged into their ER9 account on their Chrome browser, and that then opens up to surveillance on that device, I have serious concerns about that. We're doing that right now. And Furthermore, I asked the question, why? So that we can slap a kid on the wrist for not paying attention in class? I don't know that benefit. At first, I'd ask the question, have we ever done that? Have we ever gone back and looked at the Go Guardian stuff? I've never heard of any incident of
Have our teachers even been trained on it?
Exactly. If
Can
we've
somebody
never
educate me? What is Go Guardian?
Go Guardian is surveillance software that allows us to see what kids are doing on their computers when they're logged in to an ER9 account.
Does it video them? Is it a keystroke
Well,
monitor?
so
What does it do?
I'm sorry?
It's a mystery.
You can pull up their screen and you can close their tabs and you can, yeah.
It is really concerning because you can take control. You can see what they've done. You can activate the camera. And there have been instances where the camera has been activated without any indication that the camera's been activated.
And who can do this? The teacher?
Well, it's a very good question. So in theory, yes. In theory, the teacher would be able to do that. But what it requires is that the teacher is properly trained on how to do that. It is certainly possible for either sort of central office administrators or school level administrators who have the knowledge about the technology to sort of do that work. And I have zero visibility into who is or isn't doing that, who has the rights to do that, and what our practice has been. And it's of significant concern to me. It's just everything else has been on fire this year, so I haven't made that the thing.
And once the computer activates the camera, ostensibly it just stays on, right?
It could, up to and including sort of camera or even just audio could be, disturbing enough. And so, I mean, it's something I'm concerned about. It's something, I mean, frankly, the first place that it came to my attention was through my the kids who do the cybersecurity team with me, who are now in the 11th grade. They're the ones who said, "Hey, do you know about this?"
Wow.
And started showing me research and started showing me, it showed me exactly how it works when it installs itself. And the research I've done since is a little bit worrying to me.
And how is it activated, John? Is it just automatically activated anytime a student signs into anything having to do with ER9? Or
if you sign into your Chrome browser with your ER9 credentials, it installs itself as an add-on to Chrome.
So that applies to us too, because we have ER9 extensions.
It is not installing for us. I've checked that.
Okay.
Like right now, you can see my screen, I think, right? So if I go to where would I go?
Your extensions or whatever it is.
That's right. More tools and then extensions. You'll see the list of extensions. And I've just got Google Docs, Sheets, Slides, Google Docs offline, and Adobe Acrobat. If I were a student, and I could actually switch my account right now to show you, it would show Go Guardian here.
Wow.
Yeah.
And who decided that the installation of this was a good idea?
I don't know. I've raised concerns about it in the past, and it's just not something that we've drilled into. So
Anyway, as an aside, I would have a lot of concerns, and you brought it to my attention. And
Yep. Agreed.
We can refer that to the non-existent tech committee and director of digital learning.
And just ask the superintendent who made the policy decision to install this as a matter of course.
Yeah.
And there's obviously cost associated with it too.
Right. And my point is, when have we used it? Like, is this something that is in regular use and we see benefit from? And if we don't, what are we doing?
Right.
Yeah. All right. So I think that all is kind of connected here with this idea of privacy and electronic resources. So I think we probably want to, I'm just going to reply here. We need a deep dive.
Wow. Is it put out there to the parents that this is something that's happening?
I think there was a communication or some kind of
a notice,
disclosure, like this is what's happening. I mean, it's almost like the terms and conditions sheet that nobody reads.
Right.
You don't know how to spell surveillance, Google. All right. I'm wondering if we should pause here.
I think so.
Yeah, I think
5:17.
Baked on a Friday, and I got to go do more work. So.
Okay.
All right. Very good. So what does that bring us to? That brings us to public comment. No members of the public being present. Committee member comment.
Just clarifying, you want us to get through 60 more pages next week, right?
Yes. I think we would pick up because did everybody get through making comments through the end of this document, the 3,000
No.
series?
That's almost the bottom.
Okay.
It's almost the bottom.
We're close.
So
yeah.
where do we go after here?
Right. So normally we go to the 4,000, but I actually think the next step should be that we sort of collect all the EDDs and sort of, I think it's just actually a project planning session next time where we say, what we want to connect with this committee, we want to connect with that committee. We want to have a follow-up conversation with Clarence. And we just sort of plan all
summarize all our questions, basically.
Yeah, I think that's right.
And so, where are we on the timeline for the tri-board governance discussion?
The tri-board is the third week of January.
I believe that's what we said. We approved the calendar the other day, and I've already forgotten.
Yeah. So I think you had laid out a sort of proposed timeline or sort of a sequence of events that makes a lot of sense. We need to add that to because that should be the thing that we do next week.
Right.
Is make sure that we're focused on that and that we're preparing ourselves for that conversation. Yeah.
Because that might take more time than we think, and so it's.
I think that's right. Yeah. So
I'm out of commission 2 of the Fridays in January.
Okay. So let's focus on tri-board next week then. And then if we have time after that, which I don't think we will, then we can come back and close out some of the 3,000 series.
And if we have a day where we just need to do cleanup and, filter questions, as much as we like having Maureen around, it might be a good day if there's one that she can't make. So
good point. Good. Okay. So the agenda item next week should not be 3,000 series, but it should be sort of tri-board governance. And actually our current one covers either one.
Yep.
Yep. So it's fine. We can leave the agenda. That's good. Okay.
Oh, and can we add to the agenda for next week approval of meeting calendar for 2021?
Sure.
And just create a standing
Yes.
Every Friday at 9 kind of thing for regular meetings.
Yep.
Yep.
Good. Do we need to go to anybody else for the approval of that? Is that something that needs to get bubbled back to the?
The committee is its own public agency technically, and so it can file its own calendar.
Cool. Great. Okay. Good. All right. Any additional member comment?
Nope.
Motion and I have a comment. Motioning to adjourn. Can the chair motion to adjourn?
I don't think so.
Technically, I think the chair under Roberts holds the ability to do that. Conventionally, none of our boards have ever operated that way.
So I'm looking for a motion to adjourn but I don't need to go to comment. I don't need to comment.
It's not a debatable motion.
Right. So it's motion to adjourn, all in favor. Do I need a second?
Well, you need a second.
Okay.
So motion to adjourn, second. And then you can do that by unanimous consent. I've been doing that at board meetings just to avoid roll call votes by Zoom.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Do I have a motion to adjourn? Thank you, Maureen. Do I have
will
a second?
that motion.
Thank you. All in favor? Good. Okay. I'll do better at that over time. Thank you. We are adjourned at 5:22 p.m.
Have a good evening.